me far from the city to serenity where everything shines and everything is pretty. All I think about is us soaking in the sun. Not one little buzz before I met you. It turned to us, just easy to love, easy to trust.
Hello, 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 and good morning to all of you beautiful nerds from around the world, and welcome to the morning stream here on the Den of Nerds Live. Chet screwed up the intro today. We're supposed to be rocking with our sweet new intro, but alas, we will figure it out. On today's show, talking all about the Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen, the Star Wars. Yesterday, Variety reported there's a new Disney Plus Star Wars show, female-centric, in development. We've got to talk about that. I want to break it down. What could it be? What could it be? What could it mean? We're going to get into all the details. Adam from Fanjecture is going to join the show, and we're going to talk about this Star Wars show. There's actually a lot of interesting stuff when it comes to this report and what it could possibly mean for the future of Star Wars. Very interesting stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? Guys, I see a bunch of awesome people in the chat. Joe Chill, Landed Dubs, Adam G, Star Wars Santa, Drummond Company, Geologist, Stormbreaker, Shannara, Mike, Strongman Dan, Coachella Coastal, Andrew Gates. Man, we got a packed crew today. I see Flatbrush in here, James Heaton, Brian, Mike Porter, Special Stage Studios, XR Coon, Wolfpack, Personal Training, Yinzer Jim, Grey Dawn. Bunch of beautiful people in here, man. So good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. And I hope that you have an awesome and a nerdy day as well. And give me just 1 second here as I try to fix Chet's screw-up problems. I'd love to have the chat on the screen, man. Love to have that chat on the screen, Chet. Oh, there we go, baby. There we go. What's going on? Now we got you guys on there. Man, oh, man. Interesting times. Interesting times, man. Yeah, we got the chill music going on today as well. Real chill, as I'm sure many of you noticed. Real chill. And it's, nowadays, man, it is probably going to be hats, ball caps, beanies for your boy. My hair is getting out of control. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We're living in Ronaville. And I got that Ronaville haircut coming at you, ladies and gentlemen. It might be caps and beanies for your boy for some time. I don't want to do the haircut myself. You know what I mean? I don't really trust many people to do the haircut for me. Not really feeling it. Gonna be honest. Real quick, before we get into this, let me know in the chat, what are your baseline thoughts, everybody? What are you thinking when it comes to a female-centric Star Wars show? I'm very interested. If you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on Facebook, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to be here. Hope you're doing well over there in Ronaville. Hope that you're making it through, man. Well, what do you say, guys? Should we get right into this? Should we get right into it? Chat, pause the music. Chat, I feel like I can already see a potential error in what we're about to do. I feel like I can already see it. Do you see it? No? Useless. I mean, what an incredible oh, maybe it's on me. Maybe I'm wrong here. Okay, I got you, Chet. Well, let's roll it, baby. Roll it. It's the craziest news of the day. Oh, this news is crazy. Yes, indeed. According to Variety, we're getting another Disney Plus Star Wars show. Female-centric. This is an exclusive gotten by Variety yesterday. I will read right from this article a little bit, and then we will bring Adam from Fanjecture in here, and we will talk about it, okay? So, right from the article, a new Star Wars series is in the works at Disney Plus. Variety has learned from sources. The series hails from Leslie Headland, the co-creator, showrunner, and executive producer of the critically acclaimed Netflix series Russian Doll. I've never seen Russian Doll. I hear it's pretty dope. Might check it out a little bit just to kind of get a grasp of what she does with her shows. Details of the exact plot of the series are being kept under wraps, but the sources say it will be a female-centric series that takes place in a different part of the Star Wars timeline than other projects. Headland is said to be attached to write and serve as showrunner on the series, and the show is currently staffing. Reps for Disney and Headland did not immediately respond to Variety's request for comment. Okay, so most important stuff to realize here, female-centric, takes place in a different timeline than other projects. So that's really interesting, and it actually opens up for a lot of different speculation. And we'll field questions about this from you folks as well. I'm sure there's some people in the Star Wars is dead camp, you know. Oh, no, another one, you know. Yeah, we'll get into all of that as well. But now let's bring on Adam from Fanjecture. Adam, how are you, man?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Let me see if I can get your video on here. I know we had a little bit of trouble with Trinity yesterday. Boom! And you're on the screen. Beautiful.
Sweet. What's up?
Oh, man, I like that Eagles shirt, too, by the way.
Hey, well, it's draft day, so.
Oh, my God, it is.
That's right.
Well, that's pretty wild. That'll be good for the NFL fans, man. You know what I mean? And sports fans in general.
It's going to be weird. I know we're not here to talk about sports, but it's going to be weird watching a draft with no audience, for sure.
Yeah. No,
Highest rated draft that they've done in years because of it. So
yeah, dude, you're probably right. It'll be rated really high, but it'll be a weird thing, man. You know, like as is the story of our lives these days. You know what I mean? Welcome to Ronaville. So let me ask your baseline thoughts about this scoop. What are you thinking, man? When you read it, when you went over it, what did you think?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh boy, here we go. Variety going with the clicks. You have to throw in the term female-centric, which is, I gotta say, and this is why I'm a big fan of the Den, because I'm reading the chat as you are kind of going through your thoughts on this, and generally people are like, I just want to see a good story. I don't really care who the lead is. And that makes me very proud of the Den. So congratulations, Den. You did not disappoint me.
Yeah, they're good. They're good people, man. They're good.
They are. They're very good people. I also have not seen Russian Doll. So, but all the online reviews and everything says it's a good show. Critics seem to like it. Fans, quote unquote fans of the show seem to like it. So, hey, seems like a good pedigree for her. So Leslie Headland, that's fine. As far as female-centric goes, I mean, that's totally cool. I mean, you could literally replace the term female-centric and add in any, character. And it would literally just be the same thing for me. So hey man, new Star Wars, I'm cool. I'm with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I mean, I totally appreciate the sentiments. I do think that just in general, we're sort of trying to foster an environment of sort of openness and understanding over here. And to be fair, even though there could be people, and I'm sure there will be people that comment, watch, and even hit me up in messages and stuff, that don't like the idea of female-centric, and that's okay too, right? So just from my perspective, I just want to put it out there that, people that might not like that or might think that it's woke or all these crazy things, like, look, I think one of the things we want to do is invite those ideas into the sort of arena or debate of ideas and not sort of scoff at it completely. But there is, obviously a group of people out there with the eye roll kind of. I don't even know what to call it. It's so predictable the way that people would respond to this. And you sort of mentioned that Variety itself could be responsible for that and sort of feeding into that. I kind of agree. I kind of think that the way Variety chose to report it was almost to incite a backlash, almost to incite that group of people that either have serious issues with what they consider to be, politics sort of ruining Star Wars or whatever, that they've sort of revealed it in that way to sort of incite that response. And I briefly looked at Twitter. I had a kind of a busy day yesterday. I briefly looked at Twitter. I briefly looked at Reddit and tried to see like the tone of the response to it. And the usual suspects I think did their thing on it. But I think most reasonable people are not up in arms about it. The thing I do find interesting about this, calling it female-centric. Let's dig into that a little bit. What do you think that even means? Because I've also heard that the show's going to be very combat central, that it's going to have a lot of like martial arts. And I forget what trade reported on that, but people once it came out, people sort of went around and tried to figure out what that show is about. They're like, okay, well, now it's out there. Tell me what you know, to all their sources. And one of the things that came up was that it was very combat focused. So what do you think female central or centric even means for the show? Because I think there's sort of a debate to be had about what that even means. What do you think?
I think it means as much as you could say The Mandalorian is male centric. I think that means that you're going to have a female character that is the lead of the show, but that doesn't mean that every episode is just going to be a single female and her struggles throughout the world. I think that it just like The Mandalorian has a male lead, but surrounds himself with a multitude of different characters around him to build his team. I think that's the same thing that you're going to get with this. I think you will follow from the perspective of that main character, which any good story will do. You have to have your main character and have you see through the eyes of that character. But I really don't think this is going to be a just female needs kind of thing. I really feel like this will be just from the eyes of that character and what that character is seeing.
Sure. So you're just saying that essentially that just means that the main character is female. That's what that phrase means, female-centric. Because I think even that phrase, man, can be taken into different ways. Like, what does it mean? Like, because some people would probably read it as this is a show for the female Star Wars fans. But I don't think that's what they're saying at all. And I'm getting a sense that's your feeling too. You don't think that they're literally coming out and saying this is a show more for our female fans, correct?
No, because I don't think any Star Wars has really been just for females fans. I mean, even if you look at the list of things that are considered female centric, right? Let's look at Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. Okay, female centric from the point of view of a female led character, but that doesn't mean it was aimed towards just females. That was aimed for all everybody.
Sure.
Rogue One was a female centric led movie, but that was not aimed for females. You have the Battlefront video games had a female character for the storyline, and that was not just for right. Wasn't it Battlefront 2 that had
Iden Versio, was the main character.
Iden Versio. So, but that doesn't mean that it was for just female. So I don't think any of these that have had a female-centric lead character is just for females, and I don't see why they would start now.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think that it's. I think that's. I actually think that female-centric might not have been the way that Disney presented it. Had Disney, not had this, scooped or whatever, I don't think they would have presented it that way. But that's sort of, a whole different argument and a whole different thing that we can get into. What do you make of the the phrasing a different timeline than we've seen before in Star Wars. There's a number of different ways you could interpret that. I'm curious. Do you have a feeling? Because like my thing was, if it's female centric, Ahsoka is a female character. We have heard that they're trying to do a solo Ahsoka show. Could these scoops be corresponding? Could the Ahsoka show be what this is? But what do you think? What do you think that means? A different timeline than we've seen before.
Yeah, I don't blame anyone who would think it's probably Ahsoka, but that one line of a different timeline kind of, to me, throws that out the window. I think we are actually going to be getting a new story of new characters that we haven't seen that is not connected to anything. I don't know if maybe this is more High Republic. Now, I know that they said that the High Republic was just going to be books. Okay, so I know that they kind of made that stance, but I feel like maybe hopefully they put their ear to the ground and heard people saying, actually, no, we like that time period, so let's see some shows and movies in that time period too. So maybe they kind of got some feedback a little bit, and we're maybe starting developing something in that era. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Sure.
I don't think Ahsoka, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more High Republic stuff.
Yeah, that was a big thing that a lot of people talked about, like particularly on Reddit. I think a lot of people were like the Avar Kriss character, right? It could be focused on Avar Kriss, or technically any of the young Jedi or the older Jedi from that era. And just to speak on the High Republic thing, it's a fascinating, the story of Lucasfilm right now, and what I know from behind the scenes, and trying to take all the different things that I've sort of heard from behind the scenes and make it make sense, is weird right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. Like, I think ultimately when it comes to the High Republic, like, I'm of two minds of it. I'm of the mind that Disney was banking on this being their next big thing, and it was a move that they were 100% going to tie into all of these different things. Like 100%, that was the move. But I don't know if that's still the move, if that makes sense, because I feel like there's obviously a lot of changes just going on with, the world and all of that. But it was also a thing for Star Wars where they've had a lot of trouble bringing in a big creative that they want. And I can't help but think that their sort of Marvel-esque plans for the High Republic and to create that MCU type of connective tissue and environment is one of the reasons they can't sign that big talent. And so what I'm thinking is that they could alter the deal, so to speak, because their original plans, which did run congruent with what Dan and Dave were doing, that ball is not being picked up by any of the big creatives that they want. And so when it comes to the High Republic, I know for sure they have other plans. There are domain purchases from video game companies that have High Republic, in them. There's clearly going to be more, we know about the second wave with High Republic. This is obviously something that Lucasfilm really, really wants to do. And if they're operating under the impression that most Star Wars fans don't know that and don't anticipate the High Republic being the era in which they play with these movies and television shows, then yeah, they could say this is a whole new era, a whole new timeline. But the way it's worded in the article is so strange, because a different part of the Star Wars timeline than other projects is, perfectly vague, but also it implies different, meaning the High Republic would not be different. Like, if they did this show in the High Republic, it almost feels like that's not a different timeline than other projects, because we already know they have officially announced the High Republic timeline. So, yeah. I don't know if you could speak on that a little bit, like, because I would love for the High Republic to be the thing, but I just don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I think Man, first of all, this article is. I hate this article. By the
Yeah, it's
way,
not it's not really it's not well written. You know what I mean? It's very vague. It's very weird.
It's very vague. It's got wording in there that I think is incorrect. Because I was reading the chat, and somebody in the chat said female-centric actually does mean, centering on a female, and that I was wrong. And I want to say I don't disagree that the term female-centric means that, but I do believe that Variety is misusing that term.
Sure.
I don't think that that's what they're going to be doing. Is sort of my point. So if I didn't make that clear, I just wanted to sharpen that real quick. Yeah, and it's so vague. This is, oh god, that's why this article annoys me so much, because all Variety has heard is that they are in early pre-production of a show, and then they threw that out there so that we all can come on here and come to the den and talk about it. Okay. So I'll be honest, I don't even know if they even know this, because this so reeks to me of they got a showrunner to come on board, and that's as far as they got. They know they want something with a female lead. That's and if you're going to hire Leslie Headland, who is doing Russian Doll, who, like I said, I haven't seen it, but I know that has a female lead, so it's from a female perspective. If you're going to want a female-led show, you hire somebody like this to do it.
Sure.
Now, I really would like it to be High Republic. I really would. I think it was such a brilliant idea to have all that time period announcements, and they did all this concept art, and they sort of guided you through what they thought could be. So, man, if they literally just stick to the books with that, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. So I hope it's High Republic. I don't think it's Ahsoka. I think that's a totally different thing. I think that's Dave Filoni's thing. I think if you're going to hear anything about Ahsoka, you're going to hear Dave Filoni attached to it, which is why I don't think this is Ahsoka. So my fingers are crossed for High Republic.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I'm with you. I would be super bummed if it. Look, I think the High Republic is a good idea. I know there are. Look, just like with everything, there's a lot of loud dogs barking that are sort of just playing their part. Like it's a game in a lot of ways here. In the fandom, and this has been something that I've been critical of the Fandom Menace about, is like, well, it really is like Boy Who Cried Wolf, and it lost its meaning a long time ago. Some of the things that they criticize Lucasfilm for, I think, are actually super fair. It's in a sea of things that are sensational and not actually based on reality. It's inciting and anger and mongering and all of that, and it's lost a lot of its meaning, right? And so, like, when the High Republic announcement came out, I was initially, if you guys remember, if you watch the show regular, I was initially very angry at the negative reactions to the High Republic. So much so that, like, I was being an irrational Star Wars fan myself. You know what I mean? So angry about those reactions. As time went on, and I noticed more rational people talking about why they had a problem with the High Republic, it actually, like, I had to admit that, yeah, that was sort of an ill-conceived. The presentation itself was not done with reading the room. And I think there was a couple of major mistakes made. Number one, the announcement of the High Republic coming out without any indication of what the future films were going to be or what the plan was for the future films was probably a mistake, because it allowed the interpretation to be, oh, so you guys can't plan for movies, but you've spent all this time planning this High Republic thing. Like, I'm not saying that's true, but I'm saying it's a mistake from Lucasfilm's perspective to allow that interpretation to happen. Clear it up. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. Also, I think not bringing in the EU writers, not bringing in anybody big from the EU, and sort of doing a new version of the EU without bringing in those legendary writers does sort of seem like another sort of Disney, I don't want to say slap in the face of EU fans, because that's not what it is, but it doesn't address that group of fans and the problems and the concerns that they have. So I'm perfectly willing to admit that I think the High Republic had issues in the way that it was announced and presented to people. Having said that, everything that I know about it and that I know about what it could be really excites me as a Star Wars fan. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I want the High Republic to still come out, to still be a thing. I want the movies to tie into it. I want the shows to tie into it. I want to fully explore that era of Star Wars. I really want that to happen. But again, I'm not convinced that it will now. You know what I mean? Which is a big bummer. But going back to the Ahsoka thing, you said that you don't think it's Ahsoka because Dave would have been, Dave would be highly involved in the announcement, and all that would have come from it. Is it possible though that these are moving pieces that Filoni is involved with, and Variety just got this little thing that tells a part of it but doesn't tell the whole picture? Because frankly, it could, from everything we know, it technically could still be Ahsoka, and that is the only other thing that we know is being developed or at least on the table over there with Disney Plus. And this timeline thing. The timeline thing is interesting for me because Ahsoka as a character has experienced literal time travel, and she's also had to stay away from a mainstream timeline because she doesn't want to alter anything. So there is actually an opportunity for that story in the way that I think it would go to fit the bill for this announcement. What do you think about that?
I wish I could say yes, but I don't. I don't think that it's Ahsoka. I do think that if Filoni was involved, I think that's a name that Variety would have put out there. I mean, that's a clickable name. I think if any involvement that Filoni has with anything, we usually hear about it.
Sure.
So that's why I'm shying away from it, honestly.
Yeah,
If I could play devil's advocate just a tiny bit with what you just said
of
about
course.
the announcement. I'm with you. I can't disagree with you. That's why this is more devil's advocate than disagreement. But when I saw that, I didn't necessarily take it as, oh well, they can't in the future do this with the movies. Yeah, they didn't do it with the sequel trilogy,
Mhm.
but I saw it as, well, maybe they're learning their lesson and
Mhm.
now they're doing story ahead of time. So that gave me a little bit of hope
Yeah.
that maybe that they can incorporate. And the other thing is the writers for the EU. Okay, I agree with you. It would be great if some of the EU writers came in and were involved. But again, to play devil's advocate, we don't give Kevin Feige any crap for not bringing in comic writers. So I don't know that we should do the same for Star Wars. Like we have X-Men coming up. At some point, X-Men is coming up. There's no fervor of why Feige's not bringing in Chris Claremont to write these scripts for the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think let's not go too heavy on the EU. The EU, a lot of this EU was fun. I'm not one who read as much of the novels as much as I did. I read more of the EU comics.
Mhm.
But if we're not giving Feige guff for not bringing in comic writers, let's make sure that some of the EU writers, as much as we want them, I don't think it's necessary per se.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get you. Just to I guess to speak on that a little bit, I think first of all, I agree with you. The way I interpreted the High Republic move, and again, like just all the conversation, like, dude, it's so crazy to me because I've had a lot of conversations with people that like I'm super excited about it. I had one conversation particularly with Jason Ward where like we just geeked out about it and we were like, oh, this is fucking dope. Like they are learning their lesson. Like this is literally them learning their lesson. And honestly, even if you read way back to the very first that one article, man, I'm blanking on the people that broke it, but the very first scoop about High Republic and the next era of Star Wars films, something.hu, they broke it down because they knew, essentially they revealed that Disney did realize a couple of years ago that their current strategy with building the canon was not working, right? They just realized that. And so the High Republic idea spins out of that understanding and that acknowledgement. So yeah, like that's the thing that's crazy is it is essentially them coming out and saying, hey man, we definitely didn't do this the best way before. now we're approaching it in a new, better way, and we're going to really put the focus on allowing these stories to foster and having a connective tissue that is both organic but also much more much tighter. Because frankly, and it's been said a million different times, but one of the big problems with the first wave, let's just call it phase one of Disney Star Wars, is that when they downplayed the value of the EU and they played up the value of their own canon, that was good, but they just fell short of delivering on that promise. Like the novels do not match the characters in the films, because, and this is part of the reason, is because they gave carte blanche to these filmmakers, and they wanted to create the films in a way that George created the original trilogy. Now, I don't have to like belabor this point, but that doesn't work. It worked for George because there was no canon. You know what I mean? There was no canon. He was creating it. There were no expectations. There were no ways that things couldn't fit together. So I understand that. I agree that this High Republic is spinning out of the acknowledgement that, yes, they didn't do everything perfectly. I think the problem on the PR side is you need to be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're leaving it up for interpretation, and particularly because you did this announcement before the film announcements, it just leaves room for that narrative that they've already done a very bad job of trying to like put their own stamp on what that narrative is. Like they've just done a really poor job of, like, their worst sins are sins of omission, in my opinion, right? But to get to the thing about what's
for
up?
Sure. They've been guilty of that a lot, for sure.
Yeah. But to speak on the Kevin Feige thing, so I think the big difference is the reason that a lot of the people, the EU fans, are upset is because the comparison isn't one for one, simply because what Star Wars is doing is creating books and novels that are canon to a universe that also has films in it. And that's not what Kevin Feige is doing. Comic books in Marvel are separate than the movies. The movie universe is its own thing, right? And so the idea of bringing a comic book writer over to write for film or something like that is a bit of a stretch compared to bringing in a novel writer that pretty much already did what you were doing before to write another novel. You see what I'm saying? So it's not a one-for-one comparison. And I can see why EU fans are upset. I'll say that I think the talent they have for the first wave is some of the best talent out of the Disney stuff, for sure. But again, it's a perception problem. The perception is we don't want to bring in the EU writers because we don't want any comparisons. We don't want any connective tissue to that old stuff. We're doing our own version of this. That's the perception. Whether or not it's the reality almost doesn't matter, right?
Sure. Yeah. I can't disagree with anything you just said. Those are incredible points. I think part of it was not generally, not everybody, but generally the movie-going Star Wars public never read the EU. Right. They have no idea what the EU is. So not having it shouldn't affect the general movie-going public, because if you don't know it exists, then you don't know what you're missing. The problem is that we live in an age now where even a small minority of fans who did read the EU and did enjoy the EU now have the power of the internet to speak your mind. So now everybody knows what the EU is, even those that haven't read it. So and then you start trickling in all these old stories and what could have been. Man, there are a lot of great EU stories that I wish are adapted. You know what? I think one of the biggest mistakes that they ever made was not including Mara Jade.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. That, because there's actually an outside chance, because when someone first told this to me, I almost felt like they were making a show that was outside of the main Star Wars timeline. That's almost the way I read the comments. And so what if, I just want to throw this out at you, what if they did a live action Star Wars show that was in Legends, that wasn't canon, and that did involve Mara Jade? What do you think about that?
I don't know that's going to happen because they made such a big deal about everything is connected. I mean, that's their words. They
Correct.
said
Yeah.
everything is connected now. Now we can argue whether or not they've done a good job with that and whether they've contradicted themselves, which they have. And it was a tough task to start with. And they've succeeded maybe 90%. So I don't think that they would just because they made such a big deal about it, about everything is
Right.
connected. I
Yeah,
mean,
I definitely see what you're saying, but how? Let me ask you this: how do you think if they decided to do something like that?
yeah.
How do you feel like the Star Wars fan base would respond?
I mean, are you talking about bringing in marriage aid? Because I think that would actually respond maybe mixed to negative because the whole thing is marriage aid with Luke and the twins.
Yeah.
So the argument's going to be you're literally bringing in a character by name only that isn't really the character.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
So
Yeah.
I think that might now. Hey, maybe this Marvel What If series will be successful and then maybe Star Wars can do Star Wars what ifs and what if Luke met Mara Jade or what if Snoke never came around and then a different sort of timeline and they sort of do that. And that would be interesting. I would like to
Yeah.
see that.
No, definitely. It definitely could be. It definitely could be interesting. One more thing I want to talk to you about, and then we'll sort of open it up for Q&A with everybody. What about this film that sort of flew in under the radar? This was announced in February while the world was melting down. It is apparently a feature film being developed by J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens. Okay? And there's no word on whether or not this is even for the silver screen or potentially for Disney Plus. But technically, Deadline confirmed that a new Star Wars feature is in the works from J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens. Now, there were some people that were saying this had to do with the hidden planet of Exegol. I believe that was debunked. But technically still a film being developed for Star Wars. What do you make of that? And do you think that that could be something that's coming out on Disney Plus? I just highly doubt that those two gentlemen, not to say that they're not talented, but I highly doubt, with everything we've heard from Bob Iger saying that we know the next movie is super important, obviously the fan base realizes the next movie is it's really important, guys. I actually think it's hilarious, kind of like in a Camus comedy sort of way. I think it's hilarious what has happened to Star Wars, where The Force Awakens was a big smash hit, and then the what everybody said was, oh well, the pressure is on for The Last Jedi, right? Then The Last Jedi comes out, and then we were all like, holy crap, the pressure is on Episode 9. And now we're like, oh my God, the amount of pressure on the next Star Wars film. It's almost like we've had this comedy of errors where there's just more and more writing for the Star Wars brand. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the next Star Wars movie that we see in theaters could make or break the Star Wars brand, in my opinion. So I highly doubt Disney gave that to these two gentlemen. But yeah, let's just speak on that for a little bit before we get into Q&A. What are your thoughts, my friend?
I would actually slightly disagree that this could be the next one. I think this absolutely could be the next movie. I think we haven't heard a lot of stuff because I believe that this pair was Dillard and Owens. I think as long as it continues down the pre-production pipeline and doesn't get canceled, I think this is actually going to be the first Kevin Feige Star Wars film.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why I say that is because of the writer, Matt Owens. He was a writer on Luke Cage. He was a writer on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I know that that's not necessarily under Feige, but that is in the Marvel family. So I'm sure Feige, has some sort of working relationship with Owens. I'm sure he's very familiar with him around the office. So that's why I'm kind of leaning that it's very. I think it's going to be very far into the future. We literally have heard nothing except this announcement. Well, not really announcement. This sort of breaking news. I think this may be a Kevin Feige film.
Yeah.
Under his tutelage.
Yeah.
I honestly, I hope they change their mind and don't do it with Exegol, because I really don't care about Exegol. I wish it was something a little different, but hey, if it's under Feige, maybe he can kind of resurrect a good idea per se. But I kind of think that this might be under Feige just because of who the players are involved with this.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I could definitely see that happening. I'm really interested and just intrigued by all of this. Now, I think that one of the things that was funny was when this happened, I remember John Campia's take on it was like, I just don't care, because there's been so many sort of these stories that pop up of films developed, and then the problems with Lucasfilm and, Kathy and, the Obi-Wan, all of this stuff has sort of just led people into this place where until it's confirmed or until I believe it, I'm just whatever. I'm indifferent unless, we get something official. I will say this. Everything that I know about what they're trying to do behind the scenes would indicate to me that there's no way this is the movie in 2022, because Kathy wants a big name. She wants massive names. I know some of the people that they have met with. I am not allowed to say who, but they have met with some of the biggest people that you can imagine in the film industry. Names that might surprise you. You know what I mean? And they want...
This is actually a serious question, even though it sounds completely ridiculous unless you're Patton Oswalt. Do you think Disney would ever do a Star Wars/Marvel crossover using the multiverse?
Uh-oh. What happened?
James Heaton, well, first of all, thank you so much for the... Oh, you probably didn't hear that on your end. We just got a super chat that chimed in on the bot, so I paused for a second as I listened to that. James Heaton coming in with the super chat. Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate the support. And we'll go over that question in just a second. He's asking about a Star Wars Marvel crossover. Yeah. We'll get into that. Patton Oswalt is smiling at home.
Let me comment on what you said, because look, while you might be right on that, while it might, I still think this might be under Feige, but like you said, you make a good point that they may not be the names that they want for the film. So this might lend more credence that this could be more of a Disney Plus thing. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's where my head is at with it. But at the same time, look, so there's two things that, there's just so much going on with them right now, and I don't envy Kathy Kennedy at all. Because I'm not going to say it's a shit show over there, but there's a lot going on and a lot of varied opinions, and she's under a lot of pressure, and there's just a lot of moving parts, right? So it would really help them. And by the way, that's not even a novel thing to say, because if you look at her behavior in the past, I mean, she got JJ because he's a big name. And I remember when she walked into the meeting to announce that they've got a director and that it was J.J. Abrams, like she was really proud of herself. She's really happy. Like that's her mentality, right?
Yeah.
So it would just make sense that that's what they want for the next big movie. Now, Kevin Feige is a pretty big name, and obviously he brings a lot of goodwill and anticipation and things like that. So it is possible that Feige would, bringing him in to do the 2022 film, even if you had just these gentlemen that just have a less of a brand, that's possible that would suffice. One of the other things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is these act of God terminations on contracts. Okay, so most contracts have act of God clauses to cancel them. We just got a story the other day, and I actually recorded a video about it. I haven't published it, but that Marvel Studios canceled production deals with the showrunner for The Punisher and a gentleman that had developed the animated series Hellstrom for Hulu. Now, the thing that was significant in that report was that these deals were canceled under act of God circumstances. Basically, due to the virus, they were able to cancel these contracts and get out of them because of just act of God. They don't have the money to spend and give all these first look deals and all these different things. Hollywood is a frivolous town, and it's filled with excess spending and a lot of waste and a lot of circle jerking and a lot of just ridiculousness. I think in the new normal world that we're heading towards, that won't be as possible anymore. And so a lot of the opportunities that different actors, directors, writers, agents, name anybody working in Hollywood, the opportunities that they have might well be restricted heavily in the next 6 months. And so I think of some of the big names that have met with Lucasfilm, and I think about the opportunities that they probably think they had. I don't know if they have those same opportunities moving forward. And so it is possible that due to the turmoil that hits Hollywood, a brand like Star Wars is actually looking like a better play, looking like a more safe bet than it was even 3 to 4 months ago because of the restricted opportunities that these different people have. And so I tend to believe that Lucasfilm is still trying to negotiate this stuff and that the negotiations might turn in their favor as things get worse over there in Hollywood land, and maybe they can get one of these big names to sign up. And I think they're hesitant to say, okay, Feige, like as much as they want Feige's help and as much as they want to copy Marvel's success, I do feel that there is some kind of a resistance there because they don't want Feige just to take over. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that is something that is concerning at least a few people over at Lucasfilm. But what do you think about that? Do you think it's possible that we could get this big name now because of some of the restrictions going on in Hollywood?
Yeah, I do. I think a big name not only needs to happen but will happen for sure. Look, this whole thing going on in the world right now really is causing havoc for everything, and people and companies are taking advantage, and I don't mean that derogatory. I just mean that in the literal sense that they're taking advantage of everything that they can to kind of make themselves better in the future. And look, if this gives you an opportunity to shed some writers that you may not think are great for the job, and just to bring in better people, then I can't say that I'm not for it. I'm not going to sit here and say, look, I'm happy anyone loses their job, but in this industry, it's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
So if your last few projects weren't great, you're always looking over your shoulder, and unfortunately, this if a bigger name, look, I'm sure eventually you're going to come out and you're going to tell us those names when you're free to, when the news comes out. And so it's going to be a fun conversation to have when those names do drop.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm really hoping that, I mean, there's a particular one that I'm actually like most excited about. I mean, there's a couple of them that I think would be sort of honestly raise some eyebrows for people. But there's one in particular that I think is like a perfect fit. And I wish that I wish I was in the room because I just want to be like, why? Like, why not? You know what I mean? But yeah, man, let's get into Q&A. Let's get into Q&A. And, James Heaton, thank you so much for the support. And thank you, everybody, man. You guys are awesome. It's so nice to come in here every day and just hang out with you guys and talk about nerdy stuff.
Hey.
I hope you're enjoying these combos, man.
Did you see the trailer? A trailer dropped for, I don't know if you saw, I didn't even know. I saw it pop up on my feed for the Mandalorian behind the scenes, that documentary that they're doing.
Oh, okay.
Dropped for it.
A trailer dropped for it? Well, I know there was something that a round table. Is that what it is? The round table thing? Yeah, I did see that earlier, and I definitely want to check that out. Look, man, I'm going to eat all that stuff up. And I know you are too, because you're one of those guys that really loves the development and the behind the scenes stuff. Mandalorian is a special thing, man. It's a special thing, and I'm very excited to be checking that out. But let me ask you this, man. What do you think? Marvel, Star Wars crossover. Could it happen via the multiverse? What do you think?
In a fever dream, yes, it could happen. Man, that would be That would be weird. That would be weird. I don't like who would be your best battle? What battle in that would you want to see? Because
Well,
it's a what if scenario because
yeah.
you want to bring in all from the because man, I would love to see a prequel era Anakin go up against like Captain America. That would be crazy.
Yeah, it really would be crazy. Look, I think yeah, as far as the validity of the question, how actually possible is it? It's probably not very possible, but I will say a small caveat to that is that it could happen in comics because I know right now the comic industry is like hurting real bad, and a lot of these writers, even like Gail Simone, went on this big sort of push for a big Marvel DC crossover. Seth MacFarlane recently made comments about how Spawn could cross over with Spider-Man and Venom and do stuff like that, and MacFarlane's comments on that was not. And it was not like, hey, let's do this because it's dope. It's more like we need to be good soldiers in this hard time for the industry to help it out. And I think that that's actually one of the things that's beautiful about comics is that you can do the wildest shit. So if they did it in the comics and had a crazy, like, do a graphic novel, literally like the War in the Stars meets Star Wars DC and all this stuff because there's actually a lot of aliens and species and a cosmic side to Star Wars as well. And so like imagine that maybe the Skrulls work with the Yuuzhan Vong and there's this huge multiversal horde of this intergalactic thing and like the Jedi and the Avengers and the fucking Shi'ar and Gladiator and all this stuff. They're all like together and they have to stop the Yuuzhan Vong and Skrull invasion. That would be dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. As far as it actually happening in the film, very low percentage chance.
Your comic that you're doing gets off the ground so that you can get in their room and give that pitch.
Oh man, no, I appreciate that. I tell you, I actually worked on. I got a couple sketches from the artist yesterday, and I'm actually going to spend some time today writing on it and getting back to him. But yeah, I'm actually really excited about that project, and I think people are really going to dig what we're doing with that, and I hope we just don't get sued. So that's pretty much that's all I have to say on that one. But guys, let's open it up to Q&A, man. I know you guys got a bunch of questions, so we'll pop it up, and hey, bada boom, there it is. We're in Q&A time. So I'll be looking into the chat just for some good questions here. Let's see here. I'm gonna say it again. Den of Nerds. George Lucas is an eternal in the MCU who writes some of his home world long ago in a place far away. Hey, look, that would be cool, man. And like, look, Luke Skywalker ran town on our battle bracket, so. Don't sleep on Luke Skywalker, man.
Battle bracket. Don't get me started.
Yeah, dude. we're gonna fire up another one too. Probably in the next couple of weeks, maybe months here. Let's see here. Is it possible we get the Russo brothers to direct a Star Wars movie? Holy crap, Joe Chill, what a great question. I'll throw that to you first, Adam. What do you think? Russo brothers Star Wars. Is it possible, and would you dig it?
Is it possible? Yes. Would I dig it? Absolutely. 100%. Is it going to be anytime soon? No. Especially after watching your video about Secret Wars, I think that would be probably their next venture. But maybe, I don't know, it's 2020. Maybe in 2030, if Star Wars is still kicking around and the Russos are still at the height of their game, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, like, frankly, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Those dudes are brilliant. But yeah, I mean, like, obviously I made the video yesterday, but I would be shocked if they're not just gonna wait for Secret Wars. Because, like, okay, so when I think of the way, everything I've seen of these guys, and this is just a human thing, we build these like protocols or we take what we hear people say, and we sort of come up with an idea of the kind of person that they are. When I think of the Russo brothers, I think of people that they want to be challenged. I think when they think about what they did with Infinity War and Endgame, which, like, if you want to, look, we're in Ronaville. Everybody's got a lot more time. I would take a fucking minute and just think about how ridiculous Infinity War and Endgame are as accomplishments for filmmakers. Like it boggles the mind what they were able to accomplish. And I think sitting there having done it on the other end of it, why wouldn't you want to do it times 10? Oh, you guys thought that was crazy. Wait till you see the Secret Wars trilogy that we've got cooking. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm like 99.9% convinced that's what's going on. That's why they're meeting with Marvel. You know, everything I said in the video yesterday. But having said that, yeah, on the other end of that, yeah, man, they could definitely do Star Wars. But here's my thing about that. It's almost like, could they get their creative juices up for just a Star Wars movie after doing some of the most insane, bombastic crossover ensemble films ever? Would they be okay with just going and doing a little Star Wars movie? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I mean they got to play in the sandbox of some of the greatest Marvel characters. I mean they literally almost any character they wanted they had at that was available to them. So would are they ones that want to create new characters, or are they ones who want to take existing characters and elevate them to the highest level that they can?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, yeah.
or are they somebody who wished that they had an opportunity to play in that sandbox of Luke, Leia, and Han? It's tough. There's so many filmmakers are so inspired by Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
They're also inspired by the characters that they don't get to use anymore. So it's tough, man. It's, as we've seen, it's hard making Star Wars with new characters. Now, I want to see a good couple of films with new characters first.
Yeah.
And see how we react to it. We still haven't really caught on to any new Star Wars character. We're still hanging on to the old, which is fine. Just I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, like, in order for it to succeed, because all of our actors are old now, and unfortunately some have passed away. We're not getting those characters anymore.
Yeah, it's funny, like, to me, and I guess the quality of this fan fiction that I'm working on will sort of prove me right or wrong here. But when I think about Star Wars, I don't think it's actually that difficult to set up good Star Wars characters, which is maybe why The Force Awakens was as successful as it was. And then when you go from there is kind of where it goes off the rails a little bit, because I don't think it's actually that challenging. Like, the baseline plot of Star Wars, that basic hero's journey arc, and the concept of the Force, it's like, I think it's pretty freaking easy to set up something interesting and to set up characters that you'll initially really like in the Star Wars universe. So I don't know, man. I can see as a if, again, I think these guys want to be challenged, right? So maybe after they do all this crazy bombastic stuff, maybe then on the other side of that, they're like, yeah, well, maybe we want to prove that we can do character, and we can build character, and we can start something and nurture it over time and then build into the big bombastic thing later. I can see that. I could see maybe them wanting to be challenged like that. There's also the idea of taking on the divided fan base, right? Because I think that, I've seen some people talking about in chat, one of Star Wars' greatest strengths is also its weaknesses, and this has to do with how sacred it is. It's not like Marvel. Like, Marvel is different. The expectation is not the same. Star Wars means something on a deeper level to the fans, which is, I think, why these reactions come out the way that they do. So maybe they'd be sort of interested in taking it on like that. But I just don't see it. I don't see the they don't seem like the filmmakers that would be as intrigued with those challenges as they are with the challenges presented with the big Marvel movie. That's just my take.
Yeah, it's hard to know, for sure. And I don't disagree with anything you said.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's interesting. The Star Wars, that's the reason why, even in the chat right now and stuff, you have people saying different things and coming up with these statements about Star Wars, and it's just a totally different vibe. It's a totally different vibe than what is going on over at Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the Marvel stuff in 30 years. You know, we've had since the 70s to kind of ruminate on Star Wars for 40, 40 years, whatever. So 50 years. So we'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
when this younger generation grows up, and then all the filmmakers in 20 years say they were influenced by Marvel and Infinity and Endgame, and then we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. That would be, I mean, that would be cool to see. You know, I think that the bar will continue to rise. You know what I mean? For sure. Let's see here. We had a question about, let's see here. Owen asks, do you think Tom Holland will make an appearance in a post-credit scene in Venom 2? That's a really interesting question. What do you think? And you can sort of expand on that too. Just in general, what do you think about Tom Holland in Venom 2, Tom Holland with Sony, and just all of that? How do you think that's going down?
That's an interesting question because, I mean, in reality, this is sort of, I mean, Venom 2 might start setting the groundwork for the Sinister Six, right? So it's a bigger question of, will a Sinister Six movie include a Tom Holland Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I think if you're leaning that it will, then you would definitely lean towards, yeah, it's possible to see it. That's a great question. If I have to put money on it today, and I preface this by saying that my opinion is likely to change in the future, I'm going to give it a solid 40% yes that we will see a Spider-Man. I don't know necessarily Tom Holland, but at least a Spider-Man appearance in Venom 2.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same mind. There's a lot of look, that's another mystery to me that's just as crazy as what some of the things going on with Star Wars is. What the hell is actually going on between Sony and Marvel, right? Because like none of that shit makes any sense. Like, you know, thinking back to like the coverage when the deal fell off and then the deal comes back and then you get that Hollywood Reporter round table with, you know, Rothman and Alan Horn, and they're doing their thing, and it's just like what exactly is going on? Tom Holland says that he knows the entire plan. Sony has an incredible plan. Marvel has an incredible plan. Who's driving that ship? Who gets to make those decisions, right? So I'm not 100% on what's going on there. I think that Sony has all the leverage. What's really weird is the only leverage Marvel really has is the perception of the fans and the strength that they have with their fan base, which was enough, seemingly, to at least get another 2 films, right?
Sure.
But I still think Sony's got all the leverage there. I don't see how, if Sony wants to put Tom Holland in Venom, like apparently, and I believe this scoop, the late, great John Schnepp, may he rest in peace, scooped that Tom Holland shot a cameo scene for Venom 1. We now know that that's 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel wanted them to take it out. And for whatever reason, Sony took it out. So I'm confused as to why. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. Eventually, these cows are coming home. Sony wants Tom Holland in those movies. Sony will put Tom Holland in those movies. I don't know why they didn't in Venom 1. And I'm confused as to why. Could it be possible that they're pushing it and they don't want him to be in Venom 2? I don't know, man. I'm giving it a 90% chance that Tom Holland cameos in Venom 2. I really think it's going down.
Yeah, you know what though? I will say I'm perfectly fine with him not being in Venom 1. I think the way that the movie flowed and was edited, I think it might have thrown off the film a little bit, and I think it would have pushed focus off of Venom. So I think maybe they were thinking that, and I would assume that Feige probably stepped in and said, "Look, guys, it's not that we don't want Spider-Man in it; it's that it just doesn't work for how the film was constructed." Because having rewatched Venom recently, I think it would have been jarring seeing Spider-Man, just the way the story was. So that's why I would say it's probably taken out. But at this point, if you're trying to set up Sinister Six, if you're trying to create a world where now you have at least we know of 2 characters. We know of Venom. We know of Carnage and who are obviously very will eventually down the road be anti-Spider-Man. It's now time to introduce it. It's okay to
Right.
introduce Venom on its own. Now is the time to start bringing in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
At least
No, I'm with you. I think that it would have been a little bit jarring for sure. I guess that I just don't understand, like, because I don't think Sony would care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I don't understand. Is like it doesn't seem like.
they wouldn't care that it was jarring.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not at all.
Why?
Well, because Rothman and I mean, this is sort of the big criticism of Sony is that they're less concerned about the integrity of the movie's canon continuity and things like that, and more concerned with like headlines, doing things big and just bringing people in, right? So I think that's sort of the criticism of Sony, and I think it's accurate. Like I just don't think they care as much as like Feige does about like keeping everything pristine and neat. They don't care. So I just find it like weird that they would remove that cameo based on that. I'm not saying you're wrong because it would have been jarring, I think for sure. But it also would have built so much hype for their universe that they would like disproportionately value that over it making sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if the greatness of Kevin Feige gives you some notes, and you have a studio that's making billions of dollars, maybe they got out of their own way. Hopefully,
Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. But the thing is, Arad and Rothman have both been on record saying we don't need Kevin Feige. You know what I mean? Like that was the whole deal with the Sony thing was like when they took Spider-Man back, they were like, yeah, well, we can do this. We don't need Kevin Feige, you know? And even, I mean, Rothman sort of speaks to that in a more eloquent way. But yeah, they don't think they need to do it Feige's way to get Feige's success, which is of course wrong. But that's sort of their mentality on it, I think.
Yeah, and we'll see how Morbius. I don't.
We'll see.
I'm very worried about Morbius. Not necessarily the quality. I don't know that it's going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. No, yeah. We'll see, man. It's interesting because they've got some time. Like they've got time. They should be able to sort this stuff out, figure it out. One would think like, hey, they could figure out the Tom Holland thing, like get him in there, make it all make sense. Maybe even sign a better deal with Marvel. Like you've got time. But who knows? But yeah, we'll take one more question. Let me just scroll through here, try to find one more question, and then we'll call it. Is Trinity streaming yet? Anybody know?
I'll check. Doesn't look.
Joe
like.
Chill says they took out Spidey's scene of Venom because it was taking place at the same time as Ant-Man 2 in San Francisco. That's interesting. That's possible.
I mean, yeah, if that's true, I'm still whatever the decision was, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you're right. It was better for the movie. It's one of those things that like I'm just trying to make sense of it. Like I don't understand. Like where's Marvel's leverage in that situation? You know what I mean? Beyond what you said about them having the pedigree, is there something contractual? You know what I mean? That because like I just don't understand.
I mean, just because you have the power doesn't mean you have to wield it.
True.
You know.
True. Let's see here. I see some discussion about the season of the Clone Wars. Here's what we'll do. I have a question for you, and we can end on this, and then we'll send everybody over to Trinity's stream. There's been an interesting sort of rumbling that we're going to potentially get more of the Clone Wars, that this is not the last season of the Clone Wars. I've even seen some people speculating that the Son of Dathomir, which was a brilliant comic book run, that's one of the only Dark Horse comics that was considered canon to Disney's canon. Is it possible that we get more Clone Wars? What do you think about that? Do you think that we're seeing more of the Clone Wars?
Oh boy. Well, if we're gonna get more Clone Wars, they better stick the landing for sure, because it has not been a great season.
Right.
And you've exhausted all the reasons why, so we don't necessarily have to go through it again. But the last episode was extremely encouraging that it's going to finish strong. So I mean, we'll see. New episode tomorrow. I hope so. Honestly, if the whole season was as good as the last episode, I might have been like, okay, if this is all we got, then this is all we got. But
Right.
but the fact that most of it was not great leads me actually to say, man, I kind of hope we get more, just because I hope they take the ball from where they are now and run with it.
Yeah.
And if you want to do an adaptation of Son of Dathomir, I'm cool with that too. I don't know how they feel about that, being that that's supposed to be canon, but you know, if they want to redo a canon novel or just sort of extend that out, maybe, I don't know, that might be difficult, but if they want to try, I'll watch it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's man, yeah. So I mean, for sure, I agree that the season hasn't been it hasn't been great. You know, the last episode was fantastic. I expect tomorrow's episode to be fantastic. A lot of people teasing that it's like some of the best stuff, not in just the Clone Wars, but in Star Wars in general. And I'm all for that. I'm excited. But I would say I actually hope there's no more Clone Wars. I would like to just put that time period and this show to bed and focus on new stuff. And frankly, if they did another season of Clone Wars and they sort of like if they do a full, even a better next season of Clone Wars, would make me look back at this season and be like, well, what the hell? Like literally, what were you doing then? Is this literal filler? Like you're trying to fill that out and give yourself more time to create better seasons, and then it's like, well, what are we doing now? Is it are you doing another 12 episode run next season? Are you going back to 24 episodes? I think honestly, I understand that people want it and that they love that show so much, but no. Like for me, no. Do something new. Wrap up the Clone Wars. I expect this last 4 episode arc to be absolutely incredible, and that's what we will think back to when thinking about the end of Clone Wars, and not the stupid beginning and 2/3 of this season. For me personally, like I'm just gonna try to wipe that away from my memory and just focus on these last 4 episodes. But I don't want more Clone Wars. I want something like Clone Wars developed with either sequel trilogy characters or High Republic characters or something like that. That's ultimately what I would want. And honestly, I would feel weird about them doing more Clone Wars considering this season. Do you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that seem weird?
I mean, yeah, it does seem like this season was sort of a tacked on kind of, we have something for you, please like us again kind of thing. I mean, I feel almost, I don't want to say betrayed, because that's such a
Misled at the very least.
I would say it was a little bit misleading the way that they kind of announced it, and we thought we were getting all, the last episode was the quality that we were going to get the whole time. And then, not that it was bad, it just was okay. That's the thing. It wasn't horrible. I've seen way worse animated cartoons and shows in my life, and nothing was horrible. It was just okay. But for the last season of the Clone Wars, I guess we all expected greatness, and we didn't get it. So I see why you're ready to put it to bed. I if they stick the landing, it kind of depends. I could go either way, honestly.
Yeah,
I would.
no, I think that's
Yeah.
a fair, yeah, it's a fair take, man. It's one of those things where, as Star Wars fans, I think that it's like we want to be reasonable. We don't just want to hate monger, because there has been some of that, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, look, we got to be able to stand up and say, like, no, like this is not okay. And I think that in this example, like, it's definitely not okay. And so for me, yeah, put it to bed. Do something new. I see a lot of people talking about KOTOR in the chat. That would be incredible. Why not? Do Knights of the Old Republic. Let Dave do it. You know what I mean? Like, let Dave do Revan. You know, like that would be fine with me. I would love that. So that would be really cool. And there's plenty of opportunities for them to do more cool stuff. I'm excited for more new Star Wars stuff. I think Star Wars is not just going to have its problems go away. I think they'd be smart to come right at these problems. Honestly, I think, and we've sort of talked about this before, but I really think they need to do something to sort of acknowledge the first wave mistakes and how they're fixing them. I mean, that's just simple PR, right? And I know, like, you never want to let them see you bleed and all that, but like everybody knows what's going on with Star Wars. You know, like a report just came out that the Rise of Skywalker made like the literal profit it made was $300 million, which is actually less than Rogue One. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
look, we know what's going on.
Yeah.
The sky is not falling, but
Yeah.
you are not
Well,
performing the way you
here's
need to.
I know it's tough. That's a tough PR situation because here's why you don't acknowledge that stuff, not in a direct way, because then in essence, what you're doing is you're trashing on creators and the work they did. You're acknowledging that it was bad, and that sets a bad precedence for you for people who want to work with you,
Yeah.
and they'll think, well, if it's not good, then they'll just come out and trash me. So it's a fine, the thin wire that you got to walk on
Yep. I agree.
when it comes to admitting your faults and not trashing the people.
Yeah, I mean, like they should that dude totally. I would not say that it was creators' fault at all. If I was Kathy, I would own it completely and just be like, look, the strategies we put into place, the constraints we put on creators, all of these different things, they manifested themselves into a product that while we think is good, is not great, is not what it should be for Star Wars, and we're committed to realizing that reality. Like I honestly, not to go down this rabbit hole, but it's Ronaville, and so let's do it. It's like I'm just really disappointed in the disparity between what I've heard about Kathy as a person from many people and what I see from her as a leader. Those two things don't match up, and I don't know if it's just an old school mentality, if it's other people in her ear convincing her to approach things from a certain perspective or whatever. But like, I just don't. It would go a long way if she came out and said, hey, I am the president of Lucasfilm, the arbiter of the Star Wars, the thing that you love the most. And although we have done what I would say is some great things, I know that we haven't nailed it for everybody, and we're committed to that. You know what I mean? Just something like that. Like, you don't have to, I would say, don't throw your creators under the bus at all. It's all on you. But also acknowledge that, it's not, we didn't create, this isn't Game of Thrones season 8. We didn't destroy this brand. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of great stuff here, but we haven't, I would say you have this completely unreasonable expectation and desire for what Star Wars should be. And I'm with you, and we're trying to get there, and we haven't gotten there yet. That is kind of the language and the framing that I would use on that,
Sure. Yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. But anyways, we'll call it there, guys. Let's get let's get the link to Trinity's stream. If somebody else could throw that in, because of the way I have the stream set up today, it's going to be difficile for me to do that. But, oh, God. Chat, what are you doing? Into the comment section. No! Whew, that was close. That was close. We have not been going into the comment section lately, and honestly, I don't want to. But Adam, man, before we get out of here, tell people about your YouTube channel. Tell people about what they should be checking out on your channel. Do you have anything coming up that's really cool that people should check out? Plug away, my friend.
Oh, thanks, man. I don't like to plug myself too much, just because I'm here for you. But if you liked what I was saying at all, if you didn't think I was a complete idiot, I do have a YouTube channel. It's just at Fanjecture. Every Wednesday night we do a show called Debate 8, where we have it's very much like the tournament bracket that you guys were doing. We do it every Wednesday night. We pick 8 things and we throw it in a bracket, and you vote live, and by the end of the show we have a winner. Next Wednesday we're doing treasure hunting movies. So hold on, I'll bring up my list real quick just so that I don't waste too much of your time.
No, you're good, man.
So National Treasure, Goonies, Raiders, Last Crusade, Mummy, Muppet Treasure Island, Treasure Planet, movies like those. We're going to be discussing and debating and see which one is the best treasure hunting movie.
Dude, I love that Treasure Planet movie. That animated one, is that the one?
Yeah, that is a great one.
That is such a good movie, man.
Watch it. Everyone in chat, go watch that movie. It's fun.
Awesome. Well, yeah, check out Fanjecture's channel, man. Some of that stuff sounds pretty freaking awesome to me, and I'll be having Adam on again as well. I think he's gonna end up being a regular here on this morning show. So yeah, guys, the link is in the chat to go over and check out Trinity's stream. I want to thank you all for being here once again. Good stream, good discussions, reasonable, entertaining. all of that good stuff. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.